Hello, PST students. It's me again. We are on 8.3 right now, and I just want to go through some of these problems. Just two of them. I'm going to go through 7 and 15. So just to get you kind of started on that graph. So for number 7, we have 5 over x minus 1. So I will write that here. Whoa, that's really big. 5 over x squared minus 1. Again, I'm using my mouse, so just stick with me here. And it just says, we don't even have to graph in these ones, just identify the x-intercepts and then vertical asymptotes of the graph of the function. So awesome. So if you're looking at your sheet, we have steps for solving general rational functions. So it's that side, and all we have to do is step 1 and step 2. So this is super awesome. So for the x-intercepts, it is just when the top p of x is 0. So in this case, we just have 5. We don't even have an x. So technically we would ask, oh, what would we plug in if the top, to make the top 0? Right now we don't have this x, but if there was an x there, what would we plug in to make that 0? Well, we'd plug in 0. Okay, but we don't have that right now. We just have a 5. So technically, we wouldn't plug in anything because we don't have this option. So in this particular example, there are no x-intercepts. None. Okay, so it's super simple. We don't have any. If we do, you would put at 0 or at 2, depending on what we get. But for this one, the top will never be 0. Okay, so there is none. The second step is to find the vertical asymptotes. And if you look down at your sheet, number 2, it says to find the vertical asymptotes, you find each real 0 of q of x. So q of x is the bottom, so we need to find when this bottom is 0. So let's just take that bottom and set it equal to 0. And let's solve. So we add our 1 over. We have x squared equals 1. And we're going to take that square root to get rid of the squared. So what is the square root of 1? Well, we have to be careful, and we talked about this in class. This could be two different things. It could be 1 squared equals 1 or negative 1 squared equals 1. So the square root of 1 is 1 or negative 1. Okay? So this brings me to how our graph would look. So let's go to a graph really quick. Okay? So we had no x-intercept. We'll just kind of transfer it here. And we had our vertical asymptotes at x equals 1 and x equals negative 1. Okay, so if you were going to graph, which we aren't, we wouldn't have any x-intercepts, so there's nothing along this x-axis. But we do have our vertical asymptotes, and that's at negative 1 and 1. So you'd have this nice little section of lines there. So you have two vertical asymptotes in this. Okay? We'll move on to the next one. Now we're going to graph a problem. So that last problem, we just found the intercepts. Now we're going to graph. We found the intercepts and the asymptotes. So graphing is a little bit more complicated. You just do the same type of steps. So we'll do number 15 here together. Y equals 2x divided by x squared minus 1. Okay, let's just go step by step, okay? We have a squared in the bottom, x squared, so we know we have to use the steps for solving general rational functions. Okay, so let's find the x-intercepts to start. All right, well, that's where the top is 0. So where would the top be 0 in this case? What would we have to plug into 2x to make it 0? Well, x-intercept here would be at 0. Okay, because if we plugged in 0 for x on the top, that's when we would get 0. So our x-intercept is going to be at 0. So we can even, sorry about that, let's put a dot here on that x-intercept. So there it is. I'll make it kind of big. All right, next up, we need to find, next step says find the vertical asymptote. We do that by seeing when the bottom is 0. So we'll take our x squared. Oh, minus 1. We just did one like this, so perfect. And that is going to be 0 when x is positive or negative 1. So we're going to have two asymptotes, vertical. So here at negative 1, and here at positive 1. Oops. No, it's as straight as it's going to get. Okay, perfect. Now let's find our horizontal asymptotes. So, new plan. This is our vertical. Okay, horizontal, we need to look at our degrees. Remember, the degree is the exponents of your top and bottom. So the top degree is, we just call it m. Oh, let's make this color correspond here. Top degree would be m. So m is equal to what? What's above our x? Well, right now, there's technically a little 1 sitting up here. So our top is m is 1. Here we have what? 2, and we call that n equal to 2. Now we look at our options here. Number 3 in our sheet says if m is less than n, y equals 0 is the HA. If m equals n, then y equals a over b is our HA. If m is greater than n, then there is no HA. So in this case, m is less than n. I believe 1 is less than 2. So our HA, our horizontal asymptote, should be y equals 0. Let's draw our horizontal. Now notice our x-intercept does hit that, but that's going to be the only point that hits that. Okay? The only point that's going to hit that. Right? I know it looks a little confusing, but these again are a little bit different. Just follow the rules and you're going to be doing it right. So let's plot some points. That's all we have to do next. Okay? It doesn't tell you to find the domain and range in here. Okay, so we're just gonna not worry about that. We're just gonna focus on graphing. I want you to get the graphing down. So let's plot some points. So if we plot to the right, let's go to the right of the vertical asymptote. We can plot 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. 2 squared is, so that's the top, and then 2 squared is 4 minus 1, and that's 3 on the bottom. So we have 4/3. So that's just a little bit more than 1. Okay, and then if we plot 3, 3 times 2 is 6 on the top. 3 times 3 on the bottom is 9 minus 1 is 8. So we have 6/8. So it's going to be a little bit less than 1 here. So we can see that curving down. Okay, awesome. So now let's try to the left of our other asymptote here. We'll do the middle last. So we go -2. We have 2 times -2 is -4. 2 squared, or -2 squared is 4 minus 1. So it's going to be -4/3. So a little bit more than -1. And for -3, we're going to have a -6 on top. And then 8 on bottom. So -6/8 again. So we kind of see the same pattern as usual. Sorry, my lines aren't very straight. Lastly, we still have to do the middle, so that's what's different here. Let's do a half, because we're going to 1, so we kind of have to do a half in between -1 and 1. Half's probably easy. So 2 times a half is going to be 1. Okay. So we have 1 on top. And then a half squared is 1/4. Minus 1 is 0.75. So we have 1 divided by 0.75, which is going to be 1.3. But it's going to be negative, so we want to go down. So a half would be like negative down here. Okay, so negative a half, we're going to get 2 times negative a half, we'll get -1 on top. And then we have that 0.75 on bottom, but negative. So we'd have positive 1.3 in this case. Okay. So you can see that this is actually going to make like a squiggle rather. It's like an S-shaped figure. And we will talk about what this is named as well. It has a very different name, and remind me to tell you in class what that means. But this is what our graph will look like. More or less, yours will look better. Just follow the steps with these, okay? They're going to be a lot different than what we've seen, but it's still follow the steps, find your asymptotes, your intercepts, and just plot points, you guys. Just plot those points, and it will be just fine. Again, always ask questions if you need help.